Do good, Maverick here. Welcome to podcast episode number 109. The winner of the rat race is still a rat. That's a saying I heard years ago. And there's a lot of truth to it, when it comes to the 9 to 5 rat race. There is some things to it that even if you win the race, so to speak, you're still in, you're still kind of in the same game. There are some kind of limits to it. In Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I think that's the book where he talks about his so-called rich dad. Talked about instead of climbing the corporate ladder, why don't you just own the whole ladder? Why don't you just buy and own the whole ladder? That's that's maybe something a multi-millionaire would say, but and it might sound very arrogant in many ways, but at the same time there is some truth to it, though. Like Stephen Covey said, something about make sure the ladder you're climbing on is leaning against the right wall. The winner of the rat race is still a rat, because if you look at it, the way a lot of jobs work, if you're working in a job as an employee, even if you win, so to speak, you're pretty much still an employee and are under a lot of the same limitations. And one of the things with a lot of jobs, not all of them, but a lot of them, is that the way or the day you get into the job, it's almost that it's almost like you kind of have reached the top from the beginning in one way when it comes to income potential. In a lot of jobs, it is not like your income is increasing automatically the better you become. You can, of course, in many ways climb the corporate ladder, but even in that way, it's not really taking off. That's rarely the case. It seems to be more like a kind of ideology that a lot of people have in mind to kind of hold on to keep their hopes alive. Oh, if I just keep going, it will take off. Maybe not. And just to make things clear, I have nothing against people working in a job. Me, myself, I'm not even, who am I to say things against people working as an employee? I'm doing it myself. I'm not even, I'm not a successful entrepreneur at the time of this recording. So this is not about me looking down on anyone. It's just like some reflections, that when it comes to some things, like for example, being employed in a job, it doesn't work as well as it used to. During the 1950s and 1960s, a man could get out of school, get out of primary school, get a job at a factory or something like that, and keep the same job for like 40 years and retire. And while he had that one job, he could pay for a house and a car, and for his wife and 5 children to be at home. He could have a stay-at-home wife. Who does that nowadays with a normal average job, you know? And the thing is, you know, my main point here is basically that there are several things, but how is things going to take off in a job? Whereas if you do things as an entrepreneur, you might fail and fail again and again, like I have done. But if you make it, you can also take off, and you're kind of in a different position where you're not locked into the same system if you win. If people win the rat race, so to speak, how do you win the rat race? If they win, well, they're still in a 9 to 5, getting their wages after a month of work, pretty much. So yeah. But if you're looking for alternatives, like me, if you're looking for a way to escape the matrix of the 9 to 5 rat race and make it as an entrepreneur, or to live a life of more freedom, maybe you should build a paid community. One thing that I've done the last few weeks is that I've interviewed a bunch of people that are running paid communities that is making at least $10,000 in profit per month. I'm going to interview 30 of them for my online education and community platform that I'm building, terrific30.com. But yeah, so far I've interviewed a bunch of them, of those paid community success stories, and it's been mind-boggling. You know, one thing that especially surprised me was how quickly many of them were doing it from they launched until they reached 5 figures in profit per month. And also another thing was how much freedom, how much time freedom a lot of these people have. One guy that I interviewed, these days he was working less than 4 hours per week and profiting about 18,000 euros per month. An older lady I interviewed, she was profiting 6 figures per month. And she had a concept that she called 2 hours of money-making activities. So almost every morning before noon, she spends like 2 hours on her main money-making activities. In her case, it's mainly content creation, going live on TikTok and YouTube. But I also think it was answering a few messages and stuff like that. Oftentimes, she did work more per day, but those 2 hours, what was she had to do, you know? So even though I'm not an expert, and even though I have not even achieved it myself at the time of this recording, how can I still say these? How can I still claim this? Well, it is real life success stories. And you know, success leaves clues. What one man can do, another man can do. So yeah. If you want to learn from those real life success stories and also connect with a bunch of other people that are also in the process of building their own paid community, you should check out communitycashcows.com. That's communitycashcows.com. All right. Take care and God bless.